Welcome back to another episode of Eon Network Podcast. Hi again, everybody. I'm Adrian Matt, your host here. And today, in this episode, we're going to be diving into some spicy history from the archives of Eon Network. And this is going to be a very interesting one. And in fact, it's going to be very comedic, I believe, because the story I'm about to share is very, very funny and very comedic, at least after all these years. So this is the story of how Eon Network, which at the time was known as the Gaming Weekly, got involved in controversy with Jaxon and his community. So it was back in 2018, just about 6 years ago, and Eon Network found itself in a heated clash with Jaxon Hibler. Now, of course, for those who don't know who Jaxon Hibler is, he was a part of the Fine Brothers Entertainment, the FBE, for a number of years. He was a part of Teens React. He would react to certain videos and other topics. So that's what he did for a number of years. And somehow, some way, he would actually be involved in an altercation with our channel. So this all began, get this all began, at least from what I understand, this all began with my former broadcast colleagues, Undead Freak 78 and Billy Bob. From what I understand, Jaxon one day on his YouTube channel was streaming, I think he was streaming some sort of game. And what happened was, the chat, they were spamming something. And I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it had something to do with some figure by the name of Poppy or something like that. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying it correctly, but it scared Jaxon from what I understand. And the chat kept flooding the comments. And Jaxon at one point in time said, well, hey, we can't spam anymore. Well, Undead and Billy, I'm not quite sure if they heard or if they didn't, but after Jaxon said that his fans cannot spam the chat anymore, Undead and Billy Bob, from what I understand, actually spammed, and they actually said, quote, whale pee. So they typed in whale pee in his chat room over and over. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So Undead and Billy Bob, after typing that over and over, they actually would get timed out, and I believe banned from that point. So they got banned, and they weren't happy about it. Undead and Billy Bob, of course, they were not happy about this. So fast forward to a week later, we were getting set for a broadcast. Of course, like I said, they were my former colleagues of mine. Undead and I, along with Billy Bob, would work together on commentary every single week back in the day. And what happened was, before the show, Undead and Billy Bob actually said, hey, Adrian, before you end the show today, we have an announcement to make. Now, they didn't tell me exactly what it was first. They didn't specify exactly, but I said, okay, they were allowed to. They gave, the board of directors gave them permission. So at that point in time, I just had to lay back and let them say their thing. So during the live stream, it was Undead and Billy Bob that actually called out Jaxon for banning them from his chat. I'm actually going to go ahead and play the audio footage. This is back in December of 2018. I'm going to go ahead and play a snippet of this, of what Undead and Billy Bob said live in the broadcast all those years ago. Just take a listen.
Last week, I attended a YouTuber's live stream. This YouTuber is called Jaxon Hibler. He's a great guy. I watch him on Teens React. But during that stream, his modders banned me just because I was using freedom of speech. I kindly told them to unban me, but guess what? They cursed me out.
What does it have to do with anything? Oh, go ahead, Billy.
Look, hey, dude. I was there when this happened. I'm the one that created the Jonathan Gonzalez account. And so, here's the deal, okay? You guys really need to apologize to me and my friend because we were both using the account. Apologize for the unprofessional behavior, then unban the account. And if you don't, Adrian, trust me, we will continue to take further action.
So, Undead and Billy Bob, they actually called out Jaxon and his community, of course. This was live in the broadcast. And at that moment, I remember I was kind of sitting back and I was flustered. I was puzzled because I had no idea what they were talking about. And I even said it in the video. I said, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So after the show was over with, they told me the entire story. And it was pretty funny because they actually said that this is wrong because it was freedom of speech that they were using. And I told them, hey guys, freedom of speech doesn't necessarily apply via the internet or YouTube. It actually applies obviously when it comes to government agencies and things like that, but it does not protect us on the internet. So I was telling them that, and they were a little stubborn. And they said, no. Listen, these guys had no right to ban us. So I told them, well, listen, pretty sure when the video's got to get uploaded, I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to respond. You guys are doing this for nothing. And I was telling them that they, of course, are going overboard, that this isn't right to call them out. And in my estimation, I think they were actually blowing out of proportion, honestly. Anyway, the video was then published on the Gaming Weekly at the time. Like I said, it's now known as Eon Network. And the video published, and I think the first couple of hours, nothing happened really. It wasn't until once we got the notification from, I think it was Scorch actually, he sent us a message saying, hey, Undead and Billy Bob, you guys might want to check out the most recent video and check out the comments section, and you should be able to see all that stuff. And Jaxon Hibler actually did respond. It was a long paragraph from what I understand. And I'm going to see if I can try to actually, because I'm still in the video right now, I want to see if I can try to find it. Actually, there's too many comments. So anyways, I do remember it was a long paragraph, and he basically was defending himself. He said that, hey, you guys were spamming when I told everyone not to, and we just simply banned you because of what happened. Undead and Billy Bob did not like that. They thought, of course, that they had every single right to fight back. And Undead and Billy said, you know what? We're going to call them out again. And I remember telling these guys behind the scenes, I said, listen, guys, this is not a good idea. I mean, we're actually going to be in an altercation with a guy who, by the way, is in a channel with millions of subscribers. I'm not quite sure if this would be the best thing for the channel. They said, oh, well, we don't care. We have every right. It was freedom of speech and this and that. So Billy and Undead would then make a video. I think it was on their own channel. And they had made a video basically sending a message to Jaxon and his community. And it was very, very funny because in the video, from what I remember, of course, it was years and years ago, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to miss some details here and there. But from what I remember, they called out Jaxon and their community basically saying, it doesn't matter. You guys didn't give us a chance, that you guys actually allowed others to spam, but you didn't ban them. But for us, for some reason, you guys did ban us, and they were just complaining and airing their grievances. So they would publish that video. The video, of course, was published. Jaxon would then later on his stream, of course, I don't know if it was on the same day, a couple of days after. I'm presuming it was a few days after. He would actually share the video to his audience. So now we're actually getting in the thick of things. Now, this is it. Jaxon has showcased the video of Undead calling them out via in front of his audience, which I think at the time, I don't know, he was getting hundreds of views via the streams. So I knew at that point, I remember I was sent the link. And I remember when I was first watching it, I remember the first thing that popped in my mind is there's no going back. Because now this is it. I mean, as soon as he actually played the video in front of his audience, now his audience is going to try to come to our channel and try to, of course, defend him. So I knew it wasn't a good idea. But anyways, so I was reviewing the video, and I was in a party with Undead and Billy Bob, of course, and they were just telling me this is not right, and they were complaining left and right. And they got upset a little bit because I was defending Jaxon. Of course, I love the Gaming Weekly and Eon Network. That doesn't mean that I was defending Jaxon over TGW. I was just defending Jaxon over Billy Bob and Undead. Well, this is where things take a turn, though. So I think it was sometime mid-December, I think. What had happened was they actually had their own Discord server, so they called Billy Bob and Undead out. They said, hey, join the Discord. We call you guys out. If you guys want to call us out, we're going to go ahead and call you guys out. Join our Discord and complain all you want, but confront us. And after much deliberation, Undead and Billy Bob said, all right, we're going to create a Discord. So, again, the details are a little fuzzy, but from what I know, they did join the Discord in the end. I don't know exactly what happened at that point. I'm sure they probably were, again, Billy and Undead were explaining why it was unfair and so forth, and I'm pretty sure Jaxon and his fans and friends decided to fight back, so I'm sure there was probably altercations as soon as Undead and Billy joined the server. So, Undead and Billy Bob went to Scorch, who was, by the way, at the time, the head honcho. He was the head leader of the Gaming Weekly. So Scorch was running things day to day and all that stuff. And they went to Scorch and they said, hey, we're going to need some assistance because, yeah, I mean, there's so many people in there and there's only 2 of us. So Scorch says, okay, we'll see. And Undead and Billy said, why don't we just add in Adrian? And he says, well, that's a good idea. So I get a message from Scorch. He says, hey, Adrian, you're going to have to join the server and defend Billy Bob and Undead. And I'm a trooper. I know a lot of people probably will make fun of this and go, oh, well, you should have stood up for yourself and say, oh, well, they're in the wrong. But I'm just the type of person who just do what's asked. I don't really, unless if it's incredibly unethical and something illegal or whatever, of course I'm going to ask questions or I'm going to deny the request. But in terms of this point, just defending our colleagues or my colleagues in this case, I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So I joined their Discord server, and I remember the moment I joined, I don't remember what it was, but I actually decided to, I remember now. So I joined the Discord server, and I remember some of the comments that people were sending to me. So I didn't really say much. I joined the Discord and said, hey, I'm here to talk to Jaxon or whatever. And the first comment that was thrown at me was, I hope you eat glass and swallow it. That was the first comment I remember vividly. That was, somebody sent that message to me. That was the first interaction I had in that Discord server. So I said, okay, well, now I kind of know the type of people that we're going to be dealing with. So I was in the Discord server and I saw some of the stuff that they were saying about the Gaming Weekly. It was all negative. So I got a little upset and I said, you know what? I'm going to try to annoy them. And I decided to play a character, basically, trying to be as knowing as possible. Kind of being the know-it-all, so to speak, kind of being egotistical a little bit to try to, upset them. And I went in there and I said, oh, well, the Gaming Weekly is the greatest channel of all time, and you guys had no business to disrespect our channel, and what you guys are saying is just unbelievable, and this and that. So I was typing those comments, and I remember they were fighting back. Jaxon and his fans were just, of course, lambasting me, and they were just going after me completely. So anyways, I was there. Billy and Undead were there as well. So we're in his server. And the altercation would continue as days progressed. And of course, Undead and Billy Bob were fighting for the fact that they should have never been banned. And they were asking Jaxon, unban us or we're going to do something. Action, of course, further action is what Billy put it. And they refused. They said, no, we're not going to unban you guys. Are you kidding me? This is our turf. This is, Jaxon probably said something to the effect of, this is my channel. I mean, I'm not going to do what you guys ask me to. So after days and days, of course, even me defending the Gaming Weekly, stating that's a very good channel, that you guys shouldn't have the gall to make fun of us. As days progressed, I remember I got the message from, I don't remember if it was from Scorch, Undead, or Billy Bob, but it was one of the 3. And they said, hey, they're calling us out. And I remember they said they're calling us out via a live stream. So Jaxon's going to be streaming in front of his audience and with his friends, and they want us to defend our case live in front of everyone. So I remember Undead and Billy Bob were freaking out at first. And I was as well. I said, oh no, I mean, this is their own turf. We're going to be entering in their own turf. So it's almost as if we're walking in the lion's den. He has the audience. He's the one streaming it. He has his fans and members. So this isn't going to be good. But the thing that I did respect Undead and Billy Bob was that they were resilient. Even though that they were facing a lot of odds against them, they were not going to back down. They said, all right, it's scary, but let's do it. Let's do it. And, they asked if I can do it with them. And I said, listen, you know what? I'm here to defend you guys. That's what I was told. I'm here to defend the channel. Now, of course, I knew deep down that Billy Bob and Undead were in the wrong. But being the type of person, I'm just the type of person to assist my colleagues no matter what. Even if they're in the wrong, I will be there for them and fight for them, and try to just justify everything. So this is around now, probably nearing the end of December. I remember this was after Christmas. So I think it was December 27th, 28th. I don't remember exactly, but one of those days. And so we were streaming. It was live. I think it was a Friday night. It was a Friday night. Yes. It was a Friday night. We were doing the stream. And Jaxon, of course, was also streaming simultaneously. So we were doing our TGW stream while he was streaming. And I remember we had his stream up while we were live on air. And they were watching us stream for a few, maybe 2-3 minutes, just checking out what we were doing. So anyways, we finished the show. And I remember I said, guys, all right, well, are you guys ready? Because it's just... it's going to be massacre. And I told him that. I said, I'm pretty sure. And Undead and Billy Bob said, yeah, we're probably going to lose this since it's his own, stream and all that stuff. And we're joining his call. But let's do this. So me, Billy Bob, and Undead joined the call. Now, from what I remember, there were some people with Jaxon, about maybe 6 or 7 other people, his friends. And then there were people watching the stream, which it was a couple of hundred. So hundreds of people were watching live on air, as well as, of course, the 3 of us were in the call. The first thing I did, because I was upset, not upset with the whole banning thing, if I'm being honest. I was upset with how they were disrespecting the channel. That's what I really, truly was upset about. So I went in there and I kept talking and talking and talking. And of course, looking back at it, probably should have not done that because I later got silenced or muted. But when I first started talking, I remember I said, oh, this is ridiculous. You guys, I don't know what I said exactly, but it was something to the effect of, you guys should be showing respect to the Gaming Weekly. I mean, we are here every single week. We're working hard and diligently, and you guys are laughing at us, and you guys are disrespecting us, and you guys are poking fun of my colleagues, Billy Bob and Undead. This isn't right. This is outrageous, things like that. So I kept rambling and rambling and rambling, and at one point, they kind of said, all right, this guy's talking too much. Let's mute him. So I got muted. So it was time for Billy Bob and Undead to talk. And I remember they were defending their case as always. And basically their reason was the freedom of speech. That's what their argument was. Hey, it's freedom of speech. You cannot ban us for freedom of speech. Now, again, I knew that freedom of speech, you can't necessarily be saved by freedom of speech in an internet conversation because it's a completely different story. You have to basically sign the terms of use on their end, and those are the rules you're following. So there's no freedom of speech when it comes to this. So they were saying that though, freedom of speech, you guys violated our freedom of speech. This isn't right. Anyway, so Jaxon and his team had a very good comeback. They were saying that's exactly what they said. They said that there was no such thing, that you guys can't complain about freedom of speech because it doesn't protect you when it comes to this state of the internet side of things, for lack of a better term. If it was real life, if it was a school or a government agency, that would be a different story. But this is Jaxon's stream. He, of course, is the one that controls his stream. He was given the right to, and he had every right to silence anybody he pleased. Undead and Billy Bob did not get that, and they just kept going and going and going with the idea that freedom of speech is just this and that. I came back to the stream, and I kept justifying them. I don't remember exactly. Again, I don't remember. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to remember exactly what we said, but I remember saying things that, well, Billy Bob and Undead have every right, though, if we're being honest. I mean, they were using their freedom of speech, and I know that I don't remember if I actually ever did mention it live, because I didn't want to give them leverage. I don't think I ever mentioned that freedom of speech actually is not for the internet side of things. If I remember correctly, I think I just didn't mention that because I didn't want to give the opposing team leverage. Because if I said, oh, yeah, you guys are right, but I believe blah, 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 they're going to go, oh, okay, you admitted that we're right, we win. And I don't want to give that to them. So I remember being back and I was defending them. I said, yeah, it's freedom of speech. I mean, freedom of speech could be anywhere, honestly. You have the right to be expressive, and that's how your fans should be, and things like that. I got muted again after talking way too much. And this time, I got kicked. So I got kicked from the call, and Undead and Billy Bob, of course, they stayed in from what I remember, and it lasted maybe another hour. They were just going back and forth, and after that, they then would remove Undead and Billy Bob. And that night, I remember I gained a lot of respect for Undead and Billy Bob because they stood their ground. They actually were able to join in. and confront Jaxon and his team in front of a live audience, hundreds of people watching. So I remember I respected them for that, and they gave me their thanks and such. And Undead and Billy, they tolerated me. I think that's the best way to put it. They tolerated me, but seriously though, they thanked me, and we had a great conversation after that. I remember we were saying, guys, listen, I want to thank you guys for actually being willing to just help us out, and we didn't throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. We just helped each other out, and we were standing up for the Gaming Weekly. That's what we said, and we were proud of it. From what I remember, so that's when things started to die down a bit. I remember after the whole altercation live in the broadcast, if I remember correctly, I think Undead and Billy Bob would later befriend Jaxon and his team or something like that. They would say, oh, well, you know what? Let's just put this behind us. Let's all become friends and all that stuff. So Undead and Billy would become friends. And then I think I became somewhat friends. I mean, I wasn't really too connected with them, but I remember I added Jaxon at one point in time on Discord and so forth. And of course, I mean, he seemed like a very good guy, honestly. I remember it was September of 2019. I think he celebrated his birthday. I remember that. And I remember I said, hey, man, I know you celebrated your birthday recently, but I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. And he said, oh, yeah, thanks. And I think we exchanged some texts and all that stuff. Just very nice texts, just trying to catch up because, it's been almost a year after. But he's a great guy. I mean, seriously, I mean, I have nothing against him. And in all honesty, of course, at the end of the day, he had a right to ban Undead and Billy Bob. That's what it was about. And, of course, I'm sure if Billy Bob and Undead were to think back to that day or those times, they would probably laugh at it and perhaps probably even admit to it that they were in the wrong. Because at the end of the day, that's what it was. But no, I mean, they were cool people. Jaxon and his members, his friends, and all, they were cool people. There were some people that were very rude and all that stuff, but in essence, that's kind of how it goes. They're against us, so they're going to be rude to us, if that makes sense. So I can understand why they're rude to us automatically. But yeah, like I said, when everything died down, I mean, I remember Jaxon being very cool and Undead and Billy Bob becoming friends with them, and they told me, hey, you know what? Jackson's not a bad guy anymore, and all that stuff. And yeah, so I think I had maybe some issues with them a few months after. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was because I was just still claiming to be the best and all that stuff, and therefore, of course, they were very upset with that. But like I said, when all that died down, we just, we became cool. We respected each other. I think they respected us for being able to stand up for ourselves, because at the time, the Gaming Weekly only had about maybe what? If I remember, maybe 10K, I think it was. And we still were, working hard and trying to make this channel more noticeable and all that stuff. So we didn't really have a large audience, and we did not have a Discord server at the time. It wasn't until, I think, January of 2019, that's when we officially started our own Discord server. But anyway, so again, we didn't really have that many people defending us during those times. So, yeah, but again, I think at the end of the day, we look back in these times and we kind of laugh about it. I mean, I know I'm laughing about it, and I'm sure for the other guys, I'm sure they would laugh about it too. Either that or they just completely forgot this. But no, seriously, I mean, I think it was really a great time at the end of the day to just always stand by your own colleagues. Now, of course, Undead and Billy Bob weren't really close friends of mine. They knew each other in real life. They were a lot more close. But I worked with them. I was on commentary with them every single week. So because of the fact that we had that connection, I was going to make sure that I was going to defend them and vice versa. We were a team at the end of the day. And I helped them out. And yeah, like I said, I mean, we virtually shook our hands, so to speak, shook each other's hands and gave us a pat in the back. And we basically said, yeah, I mean, that was probably the craziest thing that's ever happened in the Gaming Weekly history, now known as Eon Network. So that was 6 years ago. And I know I'm missing a lot of details, but I mean, I can still recall most of it because it was a very interesting experience. That was probably the first time, that was the first time ever that I ever was in an altercation with someone who was well known, and an altercation really with anybody through online in the Gaming Weekly. Because before that, it was just us making the content week in, week out. We didn't really have any connections with anybody else but our own. So when Jaxon, of course, and his team, his community were going against us, that was around the first time, that we had some sort of problem with them. That was the first time that we had a problem with anybody, for that matter. So, interesting times, 6 years ago. Can't believe it. 6 years, I mean, it doesn't feel, at least to me, it doesn't feel like 6 years. I don't know. Time goes by fast, but like I said, it was an interesting time, and it was a time that I definitely value a lot, and I definitely gained their respect. When I say their, I'm talking about Jaxon and his team, because they weren't wrong as well. It's not that they were in the wrong all this time and they were just completely insulting us. They were defending themselves, and they had every right to, and they were in the right. But it was Undead and Billy Bob, along with myself, we were very persistent. We were very resilient, and we just did not want to let the channel down. We didn't want to let each other down. So that's why it would end. I would say it ended probably at a stalemate. I think that's the best way to put it. You know, both sides kind of just, all right, you know what? It's been fun. We'll go our separate way. You guys go yours. Good luck. And we kind of, like I said, exchanged a few messages here and there, and that was the last of it. And so we've never really, I don't think we've ever really talked to them ever again after that. But Undead and Billy Bob are no longer part of Eon Network. They retired. So, you know, working with them was absolutely incredible. If you look back and watch the videos, of course, they made fun of me just about every single week. But I mean, when it came to just being there as a commentator and working with them as a team to bring the best form of commentary we could, you know, you have a connection, you have a bond with them. So, yeah, they were great announcers back then for sure. I had a lot of fun working with them, and despite the fact that they're not around anymore, you know, I still consider them one of the greatest partners that I've ever worked with when it came to commentary. So, yeah, Undead and Billy Bob, despite the fact that they're no longer here, I'm pretty sure that is one of their highlights. If you were to ask them, hey, what's one of your highlights that's ever happened in Eon Network? I'm pretty sure they would mention this story as one of, because it was just that big. And again, we took it by storm because, I mean, it was funny. It was a ha-ha moment. It was comedic. But at the same time, it just showed that both sides really were not going to take the disrespect, and both sides wanted to stand up for each other. Or both sides wanted to stand up for themselves, that is. And both sides were going to just defend their own turf. So we had a valuable lesson those times, of course, just, hey, you know, it's just be a true colleague to a person. And that's what it is. I mean, you don't want to throw them under the bus. You want to make sure that you still defend them until the very end. And that's what we did. So, I mean, yeah, I got to say, guys, it was a pretty funny episode. I mean, I laughed a couple of times throughout it because it was just, again, it was so unorthodox. It was so just comedic from beginning all the way to the end. But that was the time that Eon Network had a controversy with none other than Jaxon Hibler and his community. So 6 years ago. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and actually wrap this up. It was a great time explaining the story. There's plenty of more stories that we have. I mean, seriously, I've been in Eon Network / TGW, the Gaming Weekly, whatever you want to call it, for a number of years. And there's so many different stories that have happened through the years, and some fun stories and such that I can share. But next Wednesday, for the next episode, I'm going to get into another controversial subject, and that will be politics. Now, we know what happened this past week with the whole Trump situation. He almost was assassinated. We're going to talk all about that next week, and I'll explain why I lean towards Joe Biden more than Trump. And I know, for the people who are going to be listening to this, they're going to go, what, are you crazy? Why would you support Joe Biden? Well, I have my reasons, and I'll explain all that and more next Wednesday. So again, I want to thank you guys for taking the chance to watch this episode. Hopefully you had a good time hearing. You guys have a good night, and I will catch you next week for the next episode of the Eon Network podcast. Goodbye, everyone. Until next time.